What is up, you sexy beast? Yeah, you're a sexy beast. What is up, you sexy beast? Welcome to another video. Come here. This is my pup, my big old pup. He's a purebred beagle. He's literally the biggest beagle I've ever seen. Anyway, he's very funny. Lots of personality. Hey, Chip. Hey, Chippy. Yes, buddy. Oh, yes. Back home from my 10-year anniversary celebrations. It was amazing. Good to be back though. I've got my mic, I've got my ND filter, I've got my tripod. Feels good to have my full kit back. I really enjoyed that Q&A and I wanted to dive deeper into my setup for competitions. I know a lot of you guys that follow me are creators. You like making videos and doing photos, and some of you might want to shoot some events or do shoot some events. And I wanted to show you and so I wanted to shoot another video just going into a bit more depth on the actual equipment I use on the floor at the events. You alright there, bud? Wow. I'll come and say goodbye to you soon. Chippy, you're an outside dog, bro. You can't go inside, okay? Don't. You know you're not allowed to, don't. Nah. I said no. Stay, hey, stay. Stay, stay, hey. Get out. Get out, you monkey. You shed too much hair. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, buddy. You gotta stay outside, buddy. Oh, look at that face. Mommy won't be happy if I let you inside, bud. Trust me, if it was up to me, he'd be inside, but Bex just is not a fan of the dog inside. He does shed a lot of hair. Hey, he's fine. He's been out there for 2.5 years. Don't worry about it. He likes to try it on every now and then. We're not quite in lockdown here in Australia. My wife's at work, my daughter's at school, but you'd think we are in lockdown. Look at this. Just built my daughter a little fort this morning. She got up early, wanted to play. So I've been editing here from home this morning, working on the James Newbury little mini doco series. If you don't follow Alpha Fit on YouTube, go and follow them because that's where the James Newbury video is being posted. But I'm gonna pack up my stuff, head to the studio, and we can continue this video there, talk more about gear and what I use at events. So I'll see you at the studio. Look at all that hair, mate. Little coffee stop. Don't worry about the brown box. It's not important, all right? Not important. Really risking that morning coffee. Hi.
What's up?
What's the vibe in the office this morning, bro?
Optimistic, embracing the challenges. Trying not to drop my phone, just having a good time.
Good.
Just doing what we can with what we have.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're a sexy beast, mate.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you.
Oh, wow. Little passion fruit cronut. Okay, let's stop mucking around, eating cronuts and getting fat, and let's talk about gear, events, and setups. So over the last 6 months, I've been to quite a few CrossFit events, and at each of these events, there's different levels of access. Some of these events you can get on the floor, get close to the athletes, close to the action. Other events, there's no floor access, you're miles away from the action, behind bars. And so what I thought would be cool is if I go through the last 4 major events that I filmed at, shot at, and my setups and my thought process behind my setup. So let's get into the show. Who says that? Someone says that. Let's get into the show. Let's get into the show. It's Gary V. Gary V says that, doesn't he? Wow. Before we start, for those who are new here, I shoot on the Sony a7 III. I've got 2 of these bodies. I fly the Mavic Pro 2 and I use the Ronin S DJI gimbal. So one thing I'm embracing these days at these events is the old fanny pack, the bum bag, the moon bag, whatever you want to call it. Slap that bad boy around you, you know. Couple of SD cards, maybe a couple of extra batteries. I've even thrown my like 50mm little tripod. Anything can fit in there that you might need on the run. Sometimes the media room where you actually edit is a long way away from the action. So for example, at Palooza, the media room was at the hotel across the road, and so there was no way you're running across grabbing gear. So the bum bag, man, it's a winner. It's a winner. So highly recommend that. Your sunnies, your phone, you can just pop it all in there. It's out of your pocket, you know it's safe. It's good. Looks bloody great if you ask me. So the first setup is from the Torian Pro here in Brisbane, just up the road from me, that I shot last November. I'm gonna do that setup now. Okay, so the Torian Pro setup. Torian Pro, I got full access to the floor. I could literally walk on there, get this close to the athletes. I was doing mainly video. I had a second shooter who was doing photos for me. So what I did was, on the Ronin, on the gimbal, that is not balanced right now, but that's beyond the point. I popped my Tamron 17-28, a nice wide lens. Popped it on there, pretty much kept it right at 17, so nice and wide. So that's not the 17-28 on there, because I'm currently filming with that lens. So I've just popped on my 50mm. But if you imagine the nice chunky Tamron 17-28 on there, that was my main video camera that I used with the gimbal. I could run around the workout space, run with the athletes. So it just made sense to have it on the gimbal and get some really, really cool, unique shots up close and personal. And then on my second camera, I just had my Tamron 28-75 on there, just hanging off the side. So if I had to get some photos, or if I had to punch in a bit tighter and make use of that 75, I could do that if I needed to. So I had that hanging off my side, and I could punch out to the 75 if I needed to get some closer up shots of people's faces when they're hurting. I love getting a variety of shots. It's always nice to get some wides, some mids, and some close-ups. So I really like the 2-camera setup. Obviously, if you don't have the luxury of having 2 bodies, you can do custom setups on most cameras. So what I do if I only have 1 body, or if I don't want to carry 2, I'll set one setting to 24 frames, one setting to 120 frames for slow-mo, and one setting to my photo setup. So then I can literally just flick from 1, 2, and 3 on my custom setups there. It's just one click away to get to the slow-mo or get to the photo. So that's the solution if you don't have 2 bodies. Set up like a normal speed, which for me, I like to shoot in 24 frames, a slow-mo option, so either like 60 or 120, and then a photo option. So that's the other way to get around that. But that was my Torian Pro setup. Okay, next up was Dubai. Now at Dubai, we still had floor access, but it was pretty limiting. There was only 2 photographers or videographers allowed on the floor at any one time. So we didn't get on there a whole lot. We were mostly shooting from the outside. So fairly close, and definitely still room to kind of run off the gimbal and get some cool like following shots. So I still wanted to use the gimbal at Dubai. I just needed a slightly longer lens. So instead of using my 17-28, I had to go to the 28-75, so my slightly longer lens. So that pretty much stayed on the gimbal for Dubai. And then I had my favorite lens, the 70-200, hanging off my side so I can get those closer shots. I also set this up for photo, so I was using this for some slow-mo video and also for some photo stuff. Now it's important to mention that both Torian and Dubai were outdoors events, so I wasn't forced to use a really fast lens with a 1.8 f-stop. I could use these 2 lenses, they are 2.8s, they're still fairly fast, but I wasn't forced to use a prime lens, for example. Now while I'm on the Dubai event, that was the first event where I ever took a photo with my wide lens that's on there, the 17-28. I came across an account, I want to say it's called Fitness Shots. No, not Fitness Shots. What is it? Oh, that's going to kill me. You gotta love it, when you want to show someone something and you can't find it. I'm going to find that account and put it in the description below. But I found this photographer on Instagram who shoots mainly with the wide lens, like the equivalent of my 17-28. And I love the uniqueness of his shots. I just felt like you were right there with the athlete, and I quite like the distortion that the lens gives you, the wide lenses, where whatever's close to the lens will appear quite big and what's further away will seem quite small. And so it really highlights what's close to the camera. So if someone's doing a rope climb and you're standing under them, that rope that that kind of flicks over the camera, it looks massive in focus, and then you've just got this really unique looking photo. And so I decided at Dubai that I would try and get a few close-up photos with my wide lens, and they were some of my favorite photos. So here's a couple examples, mainly of Sarah and Jamie Green. So that was Dubai. I couldn't fly the drone in Dubai because the event was literally next door to the airport, so the drone was no good. But I did get some beautiful drone footage of the Torian Pro that I forgot to mention before, so I'll throw some drone footage from the Torian Pro in here right now. Okay, next up we got strength and depth. That brings us to strength and depth in London. Now this was an indoor event mostly, and it was super dark indoors. My 70 to 200, which I thought I was going to use for most of the event, actually stopped focusing and just died on me. So I couldn't actually use that. But then I realized that 2.8 to me was too grainy in there. So I borrowed my man John Payne, JP, borrowed his 85 1.8 for most of the weekend. I've since bought my own one, but that saved the day for sure, having that nice fast 1.8 lens. Now there was a media pit that ran right around the edge of the floor, but it was pretty narrow and there was lots of people in there, so you couldn't really be using a gimbal or walking or running with a gimbal. There was just too many people, too many bodies around, so you're pretty much shooting from a standing position. So I didn't really use a gimbal except for the one event where they ran outside, but that was pretty much my go-to. And then I had my second body on my side with the 28 to 75 on it, just to be able to get those shots when the athletes ran over the finish line and the 85 was too punched in. I couldn't actually get the shot because they were too close to me. So the 28 was wide enough to get some of those finishing shots over the finish line. But yeah, that was probably my most challenging event to shoot so far, just because of the low light and because of the restrictions around the media space. But super well run event, and Matt Fraser was there. Actually, I did get an amazing shot of Matt Fraser with my wide lens, my 17 to 28 that's on there. He was coming off the floor and I just jumped in, got a shot right in front of his face with Tia in the background there. It was just... Strength and depth was right next to an airport as well, so again the drone wasn't needed. Okay, next up we got Palooza. And that brings us to our final setup, the Palooza setup. Now, as I'm sure you know, other than the games, it's probably the biggest event of the year. Lots of media, lots of bodies, and so yeah, there was no access to the floors. We were pretty much shooting from the stands where the spectators were. My 70 to 200 was still being repaired, but luckily my man Ty came to the rescue with his 100 to 400. He let me take that to Miami, so that was a lifesaver, especially for the daytime events. Now this is an outdoor event, but there is a lot of nighttime events under the lights, and this lens here, it starts off at a 4.5 f-stop when you're at 100, and then as you zoom out it ends up at a 5.6 all the way out at 400, so not great at low light. I did use it the first night and then decided to ditch it from there on. So that was my main lens for the daytime events, and then I just had the 28 to 75 for the nighttime events. So the shots were a bit wider, I couldn't really get any close-up shots. By saying that, the Sony a7 III is a full frame camera, and it does have the ability to crop to a 35mm equivalent sensor, I guess. So like I think it's a 1.4 or a 1.6 crop, where it takes like a 6K sensor, which is in here, crops it in so you still get 4K. You don't really lose much quality, and you can get a bit closer. So that's one benefit of the a7 III, is you can actually crop in with that 35mm crop. Now, who you're working for at these events and what the deliverables are is obviously going to change what gear you use. So at Palooza, I was required to do quite a bit of interview work, so I needed a second setup with a wide lens and a mic to do some interview stuff afterwards. So during the day, my main lens was the 100 to 400. At nighttime, 28 to 75. So those are my kind of video cameras I used for the actual shooting of the events. But then I had my second body set up with a little tripod, which I used to vlog and interview, a mic, and my wide lens. This is the 85 on here, but I had that wide lens, the 28, the 17 to 28 on here to do some interview stuff after as well. So I had that hanging off my side, ready to go to do an interview while I still had my other camera in my hand. So I run around with two cameras, two bodies for most of these events. It can get super annoying, and I actually really enjoyed at Tribal Clash, I was shooting for the Buttery Bros, and I was using just one body with those three kind of setups, the normal speed 24, the slow-mo, and the photo. Just having the one body with three different settings you can flick between is much more comfortable. So, oh yes, and I did use the drone in Miami. Not sure if I was allowed to, but I'm a big believer in just doing what it takes to get the shot. Apologize later. Probably not a great attitude to have, but I got some great shots. And that's it for today's video, guys. If you have any questions about any of the gear or any of my events I've been to, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. I want to make more videos. Again, please share the content if you want to, if you like it and you think there's value. I want to get this channel pumping, so help a brother out. Help a brother out. Oh, I almost left without showing you my hard drive situation. So I edit everything off this little Samsung SSD. It's a 1 terabyte one. Bit of Velcro, bit of innovation there, you know. Just stick it on there, it's nice and light. Doesn't fall everywhere, it's nice and secure. So that's what I like to edit on because it's super fast. And then I take one of these 2 terabyte lacy hard drives with me just to back things up. So if something happens to the SSD while I'm at the event, I'll leave this back at the hotel room in my bag and I'll have the SD card as well. So just caution, you know. Cool guys, gotta run. Stay sexy. Hope you enjoyed meeting my dog Chip for the first time. If you're new here, my office buddy Ty, you'll probably see more of him. And yeah, catch you later. Catch you later. Go buy a bum bag and just put that around your midline, you know. Wow, that was a bad ending. Be more creative, will ya? Be creative. Be more creative.